At 11:52 on Christmas Eve, Evelyn Hart placed her wedding ring on her husband's desk and whispered 6 words that made him think she was setting him free. "Go spend Christmas with her, Nathan." Nathan looked up so quickly that the glass in his hand nearly slipped from his fingers. His wife was 8 months pregnant. She was standing beneath the golden lights of their Christmas tree in a shimmering pale yellow gown, one hand resting protectively over her belly while the other remained stretched toward him. And sitting in the center of her palm was the ring he had placed on her finger 7 years earlier. Nathan stared at it, then at her, then back at the ring. He should have known something was terribly wrong. He should have noticed that her smile did not reach her eyes. He should have asked why a packed suitcase was hidden upstairs beside the nursery door. Instead, Nathan believed the biggest mistake of his life was only a misunderstanding. And by sunrise, the woman carrying his child had vanished. But the note she left behind was not the worst thing waiting for him. Because before that Christmas was over, Nathan would discover that Evelyn had been keeping a secret of her own, and the woman he had gone to see knew exactly where she was. Before we continue, stay with this story until the very end, because what Nathan discovered that Christmas morning changed everything he believed about marriage, loyalty, forgiveness, and the people we take for granted. And if you enjoy emotional stories that remind us how quickly life can change, take a moment to like this video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments. Can love survive when trust has already been broken? Nathan Hart had built his entire life around being the man who never lost control. At 41, he owned a successful architecture company with offices in 3 cities. He was respected, wealthy, disciplined, and known for making difficult decisions without hesitation. But when it came to Evelyn, Nathan had always believed there was nothing to decide. She was home. They had met 9 years earlier when Nathan was still struggling to keep his first little office open. Back then, he drove an old sedan that sometimes refused to start in winter. Evelyn had been working at a small publishing company across the street. Every morning, she bought coffee from the same cafe. And every morning, Nathan somehow managed to arrive there at exactly the same time. He later admitted that for 3 weeks, he had been adjusting his entire schedule just to see her. Their first date cost $23. Their wedding was small. Their first apartment had a leaking kitchen sink and a radiator that screamed every night. But Evelyn used to tell him those were the happiest years of their marriage. Nathan never understood why. He thought happiness was supposed to improve as life improved. So he worked. Then he worked harder. The tiny architecture firm became a company. The rented apartment became a townhouse. The townhouse became a penthouse overlooking Chicago. And somewhere between his first $1 million contract and the expansion of his second office, Nathan stopped noticing how often Evelyn ate dinner alone. He never stopped loving her. That was the tragedy. Nathan loved Evelyn deeply. He simply became convinced that providing for someone was the same as being present for them. Evelyn never complained much. That made things worse. She learned to swallow disappointment gracefully. When Nathan missed their 5th anniversary dinner because a client arrived unexpectedly, she reheated his food at midnight. When he forgot the appointment where they first heard their baby's heartbeat, she smiled when he came home with flowers. When he spent 3 nights sleeping in his office during an important project, she told everyone how proud she was of him. But something had changed during the last 2 months. Her patience had grown quieter. Her smiles became shorter. And Nathan noticed her watching him sometimes as though she were trying to memorize the face of a man she was preparing to leave. He noticed. He simply did nothing about it. Then there was Vanessa Reed. Vanessa had known Nathan before Evelyn. Long before the company. Long before the penthouse. Long before anyone called him successful. Nathan and Vanessa had grown up 3 streets apart. They dated briefly during their final year of college, but the relationship ended when Nathan moved to another state for work. There had been no dramatic betrayal, no scandal, no hatred. Life simply separated them. For almost 15 years, they barely spoke. Then Vanessa returned to Chicago. Her father, Thomas Reed, had become seriously ill. Vanessa had taken over his small construction company and discovered that the business was drowning in debt. Nathan found out through an old friend. So he helped. At first, it was professional. 1 meeting, then 2, then several phone calls. Nathan reviewed contracts, introduced Vanessa to investors, and helped her renegotiate a loan. He told Evelyn about it. At least, he thought he had. He mentioned Vanessa casually over dinner one night. "Remember that friend I told you about from college? Her father's company is having trouble. I'm helping them restructure. Evelyn had stopped cutting her food. Friend. Nathan looked up. Vanessa. There was a pause. The Vanessa you dated? For a few months when we were 22. And you're helping her now? Nathan laughed lightly. Evelyn, it's business. She nodded. Nathan assumed the conversation was finished. It wasn't. 3 days later, Vanessa called at 10:30 at night. Nathan stepped onto the balcony to answer. The conversation lasted 40 minutes. When he came back inside, Evelyn was still awake. Everything okay? Vanessa's father was taken back to the hospital. Evelyn looked at him. And you needed to speak for 40 minutes? Nathan frowned. She's overwhelmed. So she calls you? She needed advice. Evelyn stared at the blanket covering her pregnant stomach. Of course. Nathan heard something in her voice. But instead of asking what she meant, he said, please don't turn this into something it isn't. That sentence remained between them for weeks. By Christmas Eve, Thomas Reed had taken a sudden turn for the worse. At 9:17 that evening, Vanessa called Nathan. Evelyn was sitting beside him on the sofa. Nathan looked at the phone. He did not answer. It rang again. Evelyn looked down at the screen. Answer it. It can wait. Nathan. Answer. He hesitated, then picked up. Vanessa was crying. Her father had been asking to see Nathan. Years earlier, when Nathan was broke and unknown, Thomas Reed had secretly guaranteed a small business loan for him. Nathan had never forgotten it. Now Thomas believed he might not survive the night. Vanessa begged Nathan to come to the hospital. Nathan ended the call and sat silently. Evelyn already knew. You're going. Nathan looked at her. I don't have to. Yes, you do. Evelyn. Your face is already there. He frowned. What does that mean? It means you're sitting beside me, but your mind left the second she called. That's not fair. No. Her voice remained soft. That frightened him more than shouting would have. Nathan stood. Her father helped me when nobody else would. He may not make it through the night. I know. So what exactly do you want me to do? Evelyn rose slowly from the sofa. She disappeared into their bedroom. When she returned, she had changed into the pale yellow dress Nathan had bought for her maternity photographs. She looked beautiful, almost painfully beautiful. Nathan remembered thinking he should tell her. He never did. She walked past him toward his study. Nathan followed. That was when Evelyn removed her ring. Go spend Christmas with her, Nathan. He froze. What? She held the ring toward him. Go. This is ridiculous. Is it? She called because her father is sick. I know. Then why are you doing this? Evelyn looked directly into his eyes. Because I need to know what you choose when I stop asking you to choose me. Nathan shook his head. You're my wife. That's not an answer. You're carrying my child. That isn't an answer either. Nathan's frustration grew. You know what? Fine. I'll go to the hospital. I'll see Thomas. I'll come back. And tomorrow, when everyone is calm, we can have this conversation without turning it into some dramatic test. A tear escaped Evelyn's eye. She wiped it before it reached her cheek. Nathan saw it, and still walked away. He took his coat, grabbed his keys, stopped at the door. Are you seriously giving me your wedding ring? Evelyn looked toward the Christmas tree. I'm asking you to decide whether you still know what it means. Nathan placed the ring on the hallway table. I'll be back in an hour. Those became the last words he spoke to his wife before she disappeared. The hospital was nearly empty when Nathan arrived. Vanessa was sitting outside her father's room. Her eyes were red. She stood immediately when she saw him. Thank you for coming. Nathan nodded. How is he? Not good. Nathan went inside. Thomas Reed looked 20 years older than he had 6 months earlier. His voice was barely audible. But when Nathan sat beside the bed, Thomas smiled. You came. Of course. Thomas reached weakly for his hand. You remember that loan? Nathan smiled sadly. I remember everything. I always knew you'd make something of yourself. Nathan swallowed. Then you knew more than I did. Thomas laughed weakly. Then his expression became serious. Don't become so successful that the people who loved you before success stop recognizing you. Nathan's smile disappeared. Thomas squeezed his hand. You can replace money. He paused for breath. You cannot replace time. For some reason, Nathan immediately thought about Evelyn. He looked at his watch. 12:31 a.m. Christmas Day. He stood after another few minutes. I should go home. Vanessa walked him toward the elevator. I'm sorry I pulled you away tonight. Nathan shook his head. You didn't. Then Vanessa said something that made him stop. I hope Evelyn understands. Nathan turned. What do you mean? Vanessa hesitated. She called me yesterday. Nathan stared at her. What? Vanessa immediately regretted saying it. She asked about us. Nathan's stomach tightened. What did you tell her? The truth. Which is, that there is no us. Nathan exhaled. Why didn't you tell me? Because she asked me not to. Nathan pressed the elevator button. What exactly did she say? Vanessa looked uncomfortable. She asked whether I still loved you. The elevator doors opened. Nathan didn't move. And I told her that part of me probably always would. Nathan's face changed. But I also told her you love your wife. I told her you had never crossed a line with me. Nathan stepped closer. Vanessa, why would you tell my pregnant wife that you still love me? She asked me a direct question. I wasn't going to lie. Nathan dragged a hand across his face. And what did Evelyn say? Vanessa looked down. She said, thank you for telling me the truth. Nathan felt something cold move through him. He rushed into the elevator. By the time he reached the parking garage, he was calling Evelyn. No answer. He called again. Straight to voicemail. He drove home faster than he should have. At 1:16 a.m., he entered the penthouse, shouting her name. Evelyn. Nothing. He checked the bedroom. Empty. Bathroom. Empty. Nursery. Empty. Then he noticed the closet. Several hangers were bare. Her small suitcase was gone. Nathan's heartbeat began pounding. He rushed downstairs. The wedding ring was no longer on the hallway table. For one foolish second, relief flooded him. Then he saw the envelope beneath the Christmas tree. His name was written across the front. Nathan tore it open. Inside were only 4 lines. I never needed you to stop helping people. I only needed to stop feeling like everyone received the best of you while I lived on what was left. Please don't look for me tonight. I need to remember who I am without begging my husband to notice me. Nathan read it twice. Then a third time. His hands began shaking. He called her mother. No answer. He called Evelyn's sister, Claire. She answered immediately. Merry Christmas. Is Evelyn with you? Silence. Nathan stood completely still. Claire. She asked me not to tell you. His stomach dropped. So she is with you. I didn't say that. Claire. She's 8 months pregnant. And you left her alone on Christmas Eve. To visit a dying man. That isn't what this is about, Nathan. Claire's voice became sharp. This has been happening for years. What has? You choosing everything else first. Nathan stared at the dark windows. You think because you never cheated, you never betrayed her. I have never betrayed my wife. Then where were you when she fainted at the grocery store last month? Nathan froze. What? Claire went quiet. You don't know? No. She didn't tell you? Nathan's mouth went dry. Tell me what? Claire exhaled. She was taken to the hospital. Nathan sat down slowly. When? November 28th. His mind raced. November 28th. He had been in New York negotiating a hotel project. Evelyn had called him 3 times that afternoon. He remembered. He had texted. Big meeting. Everything okay? She responded. Yes. Call me when you can. Nathan had not called until the next morning. You're lying. I wish I were. What happened? Her blood pressure dropped. She collapsed. A stranger called an ambulance. Nathan covered his mouth. The baby. They were both fine. Why wouldn't she tell me? Because when you finally called, you spent 10 minutes telling her about your contract. Nathan shut his eyes. Claire continued. She told me she was listening to you celebrate while sitting in a hospital bed, and she couldn't bring herself to ruin your moment. That sentence destroyed something inside him. Nathan remembered the conversation perfectly. He had talked, and talked, and talked. Evelyn had repeatedly said, "That's wonderful." He never once asked why her voice sounded tired. Nathan whispered, "Where is she?" I promised. "Claire, please. She's safe. I need to see her." "No. You need to understand her." The call ended. Nathan remained sitting beside the Christmas tree until morning. He didn't sleep. Every blinking light became a memory. Evelyn waiting for him. Evelyn reheating dinner. Evelyn attending events alone. Evelyn smiling when he apologized. Evelyn saying, "It's okay." He finally understood that "it's okay" had often meant exactly the opposite. At 7:40 a.m., his phone rang. Vanessa. Nathan almost ignored it. Then answered. "My father passed away 20 minutes ago." Nathan closed his eyes. "I'm sorry." Vanessa cried quietly. Nathan stayed on the phone. Not because he wanted to be anywhere else. Not because he was choosing Vanessa. Because someone he cared about had just lost her father. But this time, when the conversation ended, Nathan noticed the difference between compassion and emotional responsibility. Vanessa was his friend. Evelyn was his marriage. And for years, Nathan had behaved as though the people closest to him required the least attention because they would always be there. That afternoon, he drove to Claire's home. She refused to let him inside. "You were told not to come." "I'm not asking her to come home." Claire crossed her arms. "Then why are you here?" "To give her something." Nathan handed her a folder. Inside was a handwritten letter. Not an email. Not a message dictated to his assistant. Not flowers ordered online. 4 pages written by Nathan himself. Claire looked suspiciously at him. "What does it say?" "The first apology I've ever written without explaining why I was right." Claire's expression softened slightly. Nathan turned to leave. "Nathan." He stopped. "She loves you." His shoulders dropped. "I know. No. That's your problem. You always knew. So you stopped treating it like something you could lose." Nathan looked back. "Tell her I finally know that too." For the next 5 days, Nathan did something nobody at his company thought possible. He stopped working. Entirely. He canceled meetings. Transferred decisions to his partners. Turned off his second phone. He spent those 5 days alone in the penthouse. And for the first time in years, he saw the home Evelyn had created around him. The framed photograph she had placed on his desk. The restaurant reservation he had forgotten. The baby name list hanging on the refrigerator. The nursery chair beside the window where she had probably spent hours alone. Then he found something inside the bottom drawer. A notebook. Nathan knew he shouldn't read it. But a folded sheet fell from between the pages. On it were 2 columns. The first said, "Things I love about Nathan." The list was long. His ridiculous laugh. The way he rescued spiders instead of killing them. How he called her father every Sunday. How he cried when they learned she was pregnant. How safe she felt when he held her. The second column said, "Things I miss." Nathan read slowly. Breakfast together. Talking without phones. Being asked how I am and having him wait for the real answer. Feeling interesting to him. Feeling beautiful to him. Being his first call. Being married to my best friend. Nathan sat on the nursery floor and cried. Not quietly. Not gracefully. He cried the way people cry when they finally understand something they cannot undo. On December 30th, Evelyn called. Nathan stared at her name for 3 rings before answering. "Hello." Her voice was quiet. "Hi." Nathan closed his eyes. "Are you okay?" "Yes." "The baby?" "Fine." A pause. Nathan wanted to say 1,000 things. "Come home. I miss you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me." Instead, he said, "Thank you for calling." Another silence. Then Evelyn asked, "Did you read my note?" "Yes." "And?" Nathan swallowed. "You were right." Evelyn said nothing. Nathan continued. "I kept wanting to defend myself. I kept thinking I didn't cheat. I didn't lie about Vanessa. I worked for our family. Therefore, I was a good husband." His voice broke. "But I finally realized something." "What?" "I was faithful to our marriage physically while being absent from it emotionally." Evelyn's breath caught. Nathan looked around the nursery. "I made you compete against my work, my phone, my emergencies, other people's problems, and every promise that I'd make it up to you later." He paused. "And eventually, later became our entire marriage." Evelyn began crying. Nathan heard it. His own eyes filled. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I don't know if sorry fixes it." "It doesn't." That answer surprised her. Nathan continued. "And I'm not asking you to come home because I finally said the right words." "Then what are you asking?" "Nothing." Silence. "I'm going to become the man I should have been whether you return or not. Because you deserved that man years ago." For the first time during the call, Evelyn's voice softened. "Where did you learn to talk like this?" Nathan laughed through his tears. "Apparently my wife left me alone with my thoughts for 5 days." Evelyn almost laughed. Almost. Then she became serious. "Nathan, there's something I didn't tell you." His smile disappeared. "What?" "The night I left." She stopped. Nathan stood. "What happened?" "I started having contractions." His heart dropped. "Evelyn." They stopped. "The doctor said it was probably stress." "Why didn't you call me?" "Because I didn't know whether I wanted my husband beside me because he wanted to be there, or because it was his duty." Nathan covered his eyes. "Where are you now?" "I'm safe." "Please." "Nathan." "I'm not coming unless you ask me to. Just tell me you're safe." "I'm safe." The call ended 10 minutes later. Nathan did not see Evelyn for another 11 days. Then, on January 10th, he received a message. "Tomorrow, 4 p.m., the cafe where we first met." Nathan arrived at 3:15. Of course he did. At exactly 4, the door opened. Evelyn walked inside. Simple coat. Hair loose. Pregnant belly larger than Nathan remembered. For several seconds, neither moved. Then Nathan stood. His eyes filled immediately. Evelyn sat across from him. Nathan kept both hands on the table. He didn't reach for her. I missed you. I know. How are you? Evelyn gave him a strange smile. Nathan caught himself. No. She frowned. He leaned forward. How are you really? Something changed in her face. For 7 years, she had wanted him to ask that question and mean it. So she answered. For nearly an hour. She told him everything. How lonely she had become. How guilty she felt for being unhappy when, from the outside, she had everything. How every woman online told her she was lucky. Beautiful home. Successful husband. Baby coming. Yet some nights, she lay beside Nathan feeling more alone than she had when she lived by herself. She told him she had begun fearing that Vanessa wasn't the problem. Because if Vanessa disappeared tomorrow, another project would come. Another client. Another emergency. Another reason Evelyn had to wait. Nathan listened. No interruptions. No defense. No explanations. When she finished, he asked one question. Do you still want this marriage? Evelyn looked out the window. I don't know. Nathan nodded. Then I'll respect that. She turned back. You're not going to fight. I am. Her eyebrows lifted. But not by pressuring you. Nathan took a card from his wallet. It was for a marriage counselor. I started going. Evelyn stared. You? Apparently I have feelings. She laughed unexpectedly. Nathan smiled. He had missed that sound more than he could explain. I'll keep going, he said. If someday you want to come, there's a chair beside mine. Evelyn took the card. They parted an hour later. No kiss. No dramatic reunion. But when Evelyn walked away, she was carrying the counselor's card. 3 days later, she attended. The first session was terrible. Nathan discovered that hearing criticism without defending yourself was much harder than running a company. The second was worse. The third was better. By February, they were having dinner together twice a week. Nathan still lived in the penthouse. Evelyn stayed with Claire. Their baby was due in 9 days. Then at 2:13 one morning, Nathan's phone rang. He woke instantly. Evelyn. Nathan. He heard fear in her voice. What happened? I think it's time. He was dressed in 90 seconds. He reached the hospital before Claire. 16 hours later, Nathan was sitting beside Evelyn when their daughter entered the world. The moment the nurse placed the baby against Evelyn's chest, Nathan began crying. Evelyn looked exhausted. Happy. Terrified. Beautiful. Nathan leaned closer. She's perfect. Evelyn looked at him. No. Nathan blinked. She's ours. Something about those words broke them both. Nathan kissed Evelyn's forehead. Not because everything was fixed. It wasn't. Not because leaving had magically healed 7 years of hurt. It hadn't. But because sometimes love is not restored in one grand moment. Sometimes it returns through 1,000 small decisions. 3 weeks after their daughter was born, Evelyn came back to the penthouse. Not permanently. She brought one suitcase. Nathan noticed. But he didn't ask. 2 weeks later, she brought another. Then one afternoon, Nathan returned from grocery shopping and saw her wedding ring sitting on the kitchen counter. His heart sank. Evelyn entered behind him holding the baby. Nathan stared at the ring. What does that mean? She walked toward him. Nathan barely breathed. Evelyn placed the baby carefully in his arms, then picked up the ring. For a moment, she simply studied it. I took this off because I thought our marriage had become a promise you remembered only when it was convenient. Nathan's eyes filled. Evelyn held the ring out. I'm not asking for the old marriage back. Nathan whispered, neither am I. I want something different. So do I. A marriage where we speak before resentment becomes silence. Yes. Where we choose each other intentionally. Yes. Where being busy doesn't become permission to disappear. Nathan nodded. Yes. Then Evelyn did something he never expected. She handed him the ring. Ask me again. Nathan stared at her. What? Ask me if I want to be your wife. Nathan began crying before he could stop himself. He lowered himself to one knee in the same kitchen where they had argued, rushed, eaten separately, and passed each other like strangers. Their newborn daughter slept against his chest. Nathan held out the ring. Evelyn Hart, knowing everything you know about me now, including how badly I can get things wrong. She laughed through her tears. Nathan continued. Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving that being chosen by you is something I will never take for granted again? Evelyn covered her mouth, then nodded. Yes. Nathan slid the ring onto her finger. And this time, neither of them promised that life would always be easy. They promised something more realistic. To notice, to listen, to speak, to forgive carefully, to change when change was necessary, and to never assume that love could survive forever without being cared for. Months later, Nathan visited Vanessa and her father's grave. Vanessa had sold the construction company and decided to move closer to her sister. Before leaving Chicago, she apologized to Evelyn personally, not because she had had an affair with Nathan. She hadn't, but because she understood that sometimes boundaries can become unclear long before anyone technically crosses them. Evelyn accepted the apology, and Nathan finally learned something Thomas Reed had tried to tell him on his final night. Success could rebuild a bank account. Money could replace possessions. Work could recover from a missed meeting. But time given carelessly was the one thing no person ever truly received back. The Christmas Nathan almost lost his family became the Christmas he remembered every year. Not because his wife disappeared, but because her absence finally forced him to see what her presence had meant. And perhaps that is the lesson hidden inside their story. Sometimes the people who love us the most do not leave because they stopped loving us. Sometimes they leave because loving us has started costing them too much of themselves. And sometimes a second chance is not permission to repeat the same mistakes. It is an invitation to become worthy of the forgiveness we were given. So now I want to hear from you. If you were Evelyn, would you have given Nathan another chance, or would you have walked away for good? Tell me in the comments, because I know people will see this story very differently. And if there is someone in your life you love but haven't appreciated enough lately, don't wait until an empty chair, an unanswered phone, or a goodbye letter teaches you their value. Call them. Listen to them. Tell them. Love should never have to disappear before we finally notice it. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who believes in love and second chances, and subscribe for more emotional stories like this. And remember, forgiving someone does not mean pretending the hurt never happened. A real second chance only becomes beautiful when both people are willing to build something better than what broke the first time.